the options, and then yeah, it can recommend a particular one, but at least leave it open to discussion rather than making it a predetermined outcome. And without all those facts, you can't do that. Where was the impact on physical and mental health? We haven't even discussed that tonight, and there's nothing in that report to me that says it should be just put to one side. Mental health has taken a back seat through COVID. It's just not right. We need to be reconsidering the decision along those lines. And I'm sorry, Chair, when you say climate change, I'm grasping at straws. Absolutely not. It might have been an illustration of what could happen, but if every resident that's wanting to swim did drive to Garstang, the impact would be huge. As it is, I think the report ignores climate change, or it sets an unrealistic assumption. You can't have an assumption saying that everybody's in reasonable distance and then say ignore climate change. The two don't go together. They're opposing assumptions. It needs putting right. Jobs, nothing. 45 jobs we've seen on that have gone on the chat there from the finance director has told us about. 45 jobs, I think it is, or it might be 46, but one of the two. Significant numbers of people losing their jobs, and that's how many people have lost their jobs so far. So there's also an potential impact on how many people are going to lose their jobs if we don't reopen them. It's just horrendous. We could go on all night for this, but to me, the committee needs to consider the questions posed that I posed at the start of the deliberation. Were all the options considered and documented? No. Was all the necessary data presented? No. Were the options considered based on sound data? No. And were all the issues properly considered? No. So in my view, this needs returning to the portfolio holder. I've got some suggested wording that I've been writing down and could be used based on section 3 of the call form. So if I send that via chat or email, perhaps Democratic Service can share this to screen or something, I don't know, but that would be my way forward. But it depends on whether people agree with me on those 4 questions. I believe they're all the answer to be no, and therefore on that, it doesn't matter whether the decision's right or wrong. On that basis alone, the decision needs to go back to the cabinet, well, the portfolio holder, to rewrite the report and come up with a decision, and then we've got half a chance of making a sound decision. At this moment in time, we haven't.
Thank you, Rob. Who's next?
We've got Councillor Ellison, Chair.
Go on, one last question, Emma.
Sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry, it told me that then. Really, Councillor Fail has just covered it then. We seem to keep saying that we need to look at whether the decision that they made was right or wrong. And from my understanding of a call-in, we're actually just looking at these points and whether we agree with these points or not, and whether it should go back. So I do agree with Councillor Fail there that we're not looking at whether the swimming pool should open. So the fact that we've not had the right data is a huge factor in this, because if they have the correct data, maybe they did have the correct data and it's just that it wasn't put in the report, in which case, you know, maybe the report should have had more information in it. But if they haven't had that kind of information, then maybe they need to reconsider their decision, and it might come out the same decision. I'm not saying it won't, but at least they'll be using, you know, more factual information than they've used at the moment. So I think they do need to have a look at it again. Personally, that's it. I'm done.
Thank you, Councillor Ellison. I'm conscious of time, and also I'm conscious that now that the cabinet members can no longer part of the committee meeting, there is no new information going to come to light, and I feel that really we should vote on whether we support or not this call-in.
Just to clarify, Chair, if we do vote now, then we need to determine the reasons for the return of the decision to the portfolio holder, and what we expect that portfolio holder to do. So in terms of, we can work out the reasons, and there might be a number of reasons which are there, but if we do, then we need to be saying that the report needs all options with their associated financial impact and the impact on residents, school and swimming clubs, an alternative and sound set of statistics, which we've now got apparently, with a covering explanation of usage difference and inclusion of new data that could be percentage of population realistically within a reasonable travel distance, could be the climate change issue. There's loads of data there. So it's just working out what this committee is doing. If you're putting it to the vote now, that's fine, but we also need to determine the reasons. If it's called in and we agree with that, you need to work out the reasons for why you were sending it back and what you expect the portfolio holder to do.
I take that comment on board, Rob. I feel we should perhaps take it to the vote now, and depending on the outcome of the vote, if we do vote to call it in, then we will have to quick debate on a summary of why we've called it in, and then we'll resolve close the meeting. Is everyone in agreement? I'll just pass you on to, does Emma want to have a quick word with regard how we vote?
Yeah, Chairman, I'm quite happy to do that. Can I suggest that, first of all, the committee be reminded that they are, almost as if they need reminding, but just for clarity, that the report and decision of the Cabinet to which we're referring is the additional contract variation for the Fylde Coast YMCA to facilitate the recovery of the leisure centre provision. The most useful thing I would suggest is that you may wish, Chairman, to invite that somebody proposes the motion that the call-in be supported. The only decision to be taken by the committee is whether or not the call-in is supported. So if somebody would like, I would suggest, Chairman, with your agreement to propose the motion that the call-in be supported, then we can vote on that. And because we still have 32 people at this meeting, I would again further propose that I facilitate a roll call, in other words, calling out members of the committee one by one to say whether or not they support the motion, because it's quite difficult to pick out people's hands, 14 of them in amongst 32 faces in front of me. So just to recap, if you're happy, Chairman, to ask somebody to propose the motion that the call-in be supported, then we can facilitate the vote on that.
I'm happy with that, yeah. I'm happy to propose that it's supported, the call-in.
Thank you, Councillor Fail. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. So we take it to vote?
Yeah, so what I'll do, Chairman, with your agreement, I'll call out members' names in order, and you will either be saying you are for that motion, that the call-in be supported, or you're against that motion. So, Councillor Ian Amos.
Against.
Councillor Rita Amos.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Ballard.
Against.
Councillor Colette Birch. Can't hear you, Councillor Birch.
I'm sorry.
Councillor Collinson.
Against.
Councillor Cropper.
Against.
Councillor Ellison. Councillor Fail.
For.
Councillor Leach.
Against.
Councillor Longton.
For.
Councillor Minto.
Against.
Councillor O'Neill.
For.
Councillor Matthew Vincent
Against.
and Councillor Ibbison.
Against.
So I just, I've got some figures there, but doing those at the same time, I'm just going to check with my colleagues.
9-5.
Yeah, that's what I have. Yeah, thank you. So that's lost by 9 votes to 5.
Thank you, fellow members, for this evening. Although the call-in was not successful this time, I feel that we could minute that our concerns be included in the minutes of the meeting and our comments forwarded back to the Cabinet. And if I don't know, perhaps I should formally